The courtroom was packed tighter than it had ever been. Word had spread like wildfire this time. Bambi wasn't sitting in the plaintiff's seat. She was the one on trial. The woman who once stood tall with her truth, now stood accused of crossing the line between television drama and real-life violence. The attack on Tasha K., caught partially on a backstage security feed and whispered about in every corner of the industry, had finally brought everything crashing down. Fans had camped outside Fulton County Courthouse since dawn, holding signs that read "Justice for the Truth Teller," and Bambi broke the script. Inside, the tension was ice cold. Scrappy sat near the back, flanked by his legal team, avoiding every camera and refusing to look toward the woman he once called his wife. For once, his name wasn't on the docket. For once, he wasn't the villain. The court clerk called order, and the bailiff's voice rang out. The state of Georgia versus Adizia Benson, known publicly as Bambi. Every eye in the room turned as Bambi rose from her chair, her jaw tight, her hair pulled back, her makeup minimal, no lashes, no gloss, just resolve and war in her eyes. The prosecution didn't waste time. They called Tasha K. as the first witness. The courtroom held its breath as she walked to the stand, her gait slower than usual, her wrist still wrapped in a compression brace from the attack. She wore black and white, a statement, a contrast, a warning. She swore in without flinching. The prosecutor's voice was calm but firm. "Can you describe what happened on the evening of the reunion shoot?" Tasha didn't hesitate. "I was backstage reviewing my segment notes. I'd already testified. I had done what I came to do, speak my piece about what had been done to Bambi and others by production. But when I turned the corner, she was waiting for me. She didn't say a word. She just lunged." Murmurs filled the room. Bambi's team objected, claiming embellishment. The judge, unimpressed, silenced them with a look. "We have the footage," the prosecutor added. "May we play it for the jury?" The judge nodded. The lights dimmed and the screen came to life. The clip wasn't dramatic, no sound, no music, no edit tricks. Just raw, grayscale surveillance footage of Bambi grabbing Tasha's arm, slapping the phone from her hand, and screaming something unintelligible before security dragged her away. The gasps were immediate. The silence that followed was louder. Bambi sat stone-faced. She didn't deny it, she didn't flinch. When her lawyer arose, they didn't argue the tape. They argued the reason. Ms. Benson was pushed beyond her limits, the defense said. She had just learned that Tasha K. had not only leaked her confidential medical files, but manipulated them to embarrass her during filming. "What you're seeing is not an attack, it's a breaking point." But before that narrative could settle, Tasha K. spoke again. This time, not as a victim, but as a journalist. "I didn't manipulate anything. And I didn't leak anything without reason. That DNA file she's so mad about, it wasn't even real." A hush fell over the room. The prosecutor blinked. "Excuse me," Tasha K. nodded. "I was going to save this for the documentary, but since we're all here under oath, that file, the one that claimed Bambi was pregnant by Scrappy during filming, it was fabricated by production. With Bambi's approval, I just exposed it." The judge leaned forward. "Are you saying the pregnancy storyline was staged?" Tasha K. looked at Bambi, then turned back to the court. "Not staged. From nothing, there was never a baby. Never a test. Just a storyline meant to flip the sympathy scale after Scrappy started catching heat online." Scrappy stirred for the first time, his expression unreadable. The courtroom devolved into chaos. Reporters scrambled for quotes. Jurors looked visibly shaken. The judge demanded silence. Bambi's attorney scrambled to control the narrative. "Objection, this was not part of the initial evidence submitted for this trial. It's perjury if I don't tell it now." Tasha cut in. "You want the truth? That's what I'm giving." She wasn't protecting her peace. She was protecting a lie. "And when I exposed it, she hit me." The judge ordered a recess, but the damage had been done. Scrappy stepped outside with his lawyer, hands in his pockets, head low. The cameras caught his every move, every sigh, every blink. Reporters shouted questions, but he said nothing. Then came the update that shifted everything. The court was considering relieving Scrappy of all legal responsibility attached to the fake pregnancy angle. A motion had been filed, stating he was unaware the storyline was completely fabricated and was told by producers that it was based on private medical information given by Bambi herself. If granted, he'd walk out untouched, cleared of any involvement in the lie that had defined a season and destroyed his image. When court resumed, Scrappy was called to the stand not as a defendant, but as a witness. His face was tight, his words measured. I didn't know it was fake. She told me she had taken a test, that she was waiting on results. Producers started poking at it, then it blew up. I figured it was real. I didn't find out until Tasha dropped the file that there wasn't even a test, just a Word doc and some staged tears. The prosecutor leaned in. And how did you feel when you found out? Scrappy exhaled. Like my life had been hijacked for a plot twist, like the mother of my child let me walk into fire to save her own reputation. I couldn't breathe when I found out. I felt played. All over again. Bambi looked away, jaw clenched. Her team whispered furiously behind her. Tasha K sat still, expression unreadable. The judge nodded slowly, then announced a short recess before cross-examination. In the hallway, chaos erupted. Fans screamed. Blog headlines refreshed in real time. One read Bambi's baby bombshell, backfires, Scrappy walks free. Another, Tasha K vindicated as rating scheme exposed, live in court. Inside, the judge reviewed the updated motion, and when the court reconvened, he made it official. Given the newly submitted evidence and testimony, the court recognizes that Mr. Richardson was not made aware of the falsehood of the pregnancy storyline and will no longer be held liable for any resulting defamation or media manipulation. The charges against Mr. Richardson are hereby dropped. The room broke into scattered gasps. Bambi didn't blink, but her hands clenched around the arms of her chair like steel. This wasn't just a trial anymore. It was a takedown. The courtroom had never felt colder. The energy shifted entirely after the judge dismissed the charges against Scrappy, and you could feel it like fog in the air. The once sympathetic glances Bambi had received from the jury were now gone. What remained was curiosity, suspicion, judgment. The prosecutor stood again, this time holding a printed transcript from the last reunion taping. Ms. Benson, on record, you said to producers and, I quote, "They'll eat this up. Just, let me cry and mention the baby." The words hung in the air like smoke. Bambi shifted uncomfortably in her seat, lips pressed together, fingers twitching. Her lawyer objected to the transcript's relevance, but the judge allowed it. This court is not just evaluating the assault, but the motives that led to it. If Ms. Benson manufactured emotional leverage for public sympathy, and later turned violent when the ruse failed, that is both context and consequence. The gavel hit once. No further objections. The prosecution then called Tamika, a former junior producer, to the stand. She was nervous at first, voice shaky, but determined. I was part of the storyline construction team for season 12. I handled scheduling and field notes. One day, I overheard a planning call with Ms. Benson and two senior producers. They were brainstorming how to flip public opinion. Ms. Benson said the only way to get sympathy was to make it about motherhood. And what did they decide to do? The prosecutor asked. Tamika hesitated, then answered. They created a phantom pregnancy, planned a fake test, scripted a reveal scene, even scheduled an emotional confessional with low lighting and soft piano music. Ms. Benson approved all of it. Gasps again. But Tasha K didn't flinch. She simply crossed her arms tighter. Bambi, however, lost her grip. Her head dropped. Shoulders fell forward. She suddenly looked exhausted. Like the weight of the lie was too heavy now that it had been dragged into the light. Next came the surprise. A witness no one expected. Spice, dressed in charcoal gray with royal blue earrings. She walked to the stand as if it were a stage she'd long waited for. The courtroom tensed. Ms. Hamilton, you've worked with Ms. Benson for several seasons. Were you aware of the pregnancy storyline? Spice nodded once. Not at first. But I started to suspect something when no doctor visits were scheduled. No calls. No wardrobe adjustments. Just crying on cue. So I checked with someone in editing. That's when I learned there were no documents. Just scripts. And a staged pharmacy run that never made it to air. The prosecutor raised a brow. Did you confront Ms. Benson? Spice paused. No, because I knew it wasn't just her. It was the machine, the network, the check. But when she hit Tasha over it, that was personal. That was ego. Her voice cut like ice. The jury scribbled notes furiously. Even the judge looked disturbed now. That's when Tasha K was allowed to take the stand one final time. This time for cross-examination. Bambi's lawyer tried to rattle her. Ms. Freeman, isn't it true? You have a reputation for stirring drama online. That your content is often inflammatory, exaggerated, even slanderous. Tasha smirked, and yet here we are. In a courtroom, over something I said that turned out to be true. The room chuckled. Even the judge cracked a reluctant smile. The difference between slander and journalism, Tasha continued, is the receipts. And I always keep mine. She held up her binder again, this time marked, Trial Edition. Ms. Freeman, did you have any personal vendetta against Ms. Benson? The lawyer pressed. Tasha nodded. After she hit me, yes, but before that, I was defending her. I leaked that DNA file because I thought she was being played. I didn't know. She was the one playing us. That admission silenced even the defense. Later that day, Scrappy was seen outside the courthouse, giving a short statement to the press. He didn't gloat. He didn't celebrate. His voice cracked as he said, I just want peace now. I want to be a father without cameras, without scripts, and without fear of being used again. The press flooded him with questions about Bambi, but he walked away. Silent. His part in the drama, it seemed, was officially over. But Bambi's was only getting worse. That evening, court resumed for final evidence presentation. A hard drive was submitted by Tamika containing raw footage and unedited confessionals that showed Bambi rehearsing lines, asking for retakes when she didn't look broken enough, and discussing storyline direction with producers, some clips as recent as 2 weeks before the attack on Tasha K. There was no more denying it, no more spinning it. The prosecution rested their case. The courtroom, worn thin from the weight of what had been exposed, was dismissed for the day. But outside, it was chaos. Protesters chanted. Fans argued. Blog live streams titled Bambi, Faked It All, reached over 1 million views in 3 hours. Twitter was on fire. Hashtag Free Tasha, hashtag Scrappy Cleared, and hashtag Bambi on Trial trended simultaneously. Hulu dropped a teaser clip for Broken for Ratings, Part 2, this time with a new tagline, When the Storyline Turns on the Star. The teaser ended with Tasha K's voice saying, She hit me because I wouldn't lie with her. That's the truth, and this time, the truth hit back. Inside her hotel suite that night, Bambi sat alone. No team, no crew, no fans cheering her on in DMIs, just her, a legal pad, and a decision. The court reconvened tomorrow. And the question now wasn't if she'd lose but how badly. The final day of the trial arrived like a storm warning. Everyone knew something irreversible was about to happen. They just didn't know how loud it would hit. The courthouse was surrounded by media trucks and livestream setups, the crowd stretching 3 blocks down. Inside, the energy was thick, almost spiritual. No cameras were allowed, but it didn't matter. The world was already watching. On social media, fans posted countdown clocks like it was a reality show finale. But this wasn't scripted anymore. This was justice, or at least the messy, emotional version of it. Bambi entered the courtroom with a new look. No glam, no earrings, just a tan blazer and trembling hands. She sat silently beside her attorney, eyes down. Across the room, Tasha K looked composed, with her binder on her lap and a small cut still healing on her wrist. And behind her, in the second row, sat Scrappy wearing black. No chain, eyes low, unreadable. The bailiff called order, and the judge entered with a folder in hand. We are prepared to move forward with closing statements and sentencing recommendations, he said calmly. But calm didn't last. The prosecution rose. What we've seen here is not just an assault, the attorney began, but a pattern, a calculated plan to manipulate public perception, weaponize sympathy, and when that failed, resort to violence. Ms. Benson fabricated a pregnancy for attention. She attacked a journalist to silence exposure. And she let her co-parent be defamed, slandered, and nearly destroyed to preserve her version of the story. The words hit hard. The jury didn't move, neither did Bambi. She just stared straight ahead, like she wasn't even in her own body anymore. Then came the defense. Yes, my client made mistakes. Yes, she reacted poorly. But she was pushed by producers, by a toxic system, by years of being forced to perform trauma for entertainment. The court should consider not just her actions, but the environment that enabled them. Ms. Benson was not the architect. She was a product. Some jurors nodded, but others remained stone-faced. Then the judge asked Bambi if she wished to speak. A long pause, a whisper to her lawyer. Then slowly, she rose. Her voice was small, but steady. I lost myself trying to be what the show wanted. I was praised when I cried, paid when I broke. I thought if I controlled the story, I'd control the pain. But I didn't. I just buried it deeper. And when Tasha brought it up, I snapped. Not because she was wrong, but because she was right. She turned toward Tasha K. I'm sorry. Not for what you exposed. But for making you the enemy when I should have thanked you for telling the truth I was too scared to face. There was no applause. No gasp. Just silence, then came sentencing. The judge took a long breath before speaking. This court acknowledges the complexity of this case, the blurred lines between reality and television, between character and person. However, we must still respond to the facts. He paused. Ms. Benson, you are hereby sentenced to 120 days of house arrest, 1 year of probation, 200 hours of community service, focused on media ethics and emotional abuse awareness, and a court-mandated public apology to Ms. Freeman. Bambi nodded, faintly, the weight of it all finally landing like bricks on her shoulders. Scrappy looked away, but the drama wasn't over. As court was adjourned, Tasha K. stood and asked to address the room. The judge allowed it. She stepped forward, binder in hand, and said, I wasn't going to show this. But since the show's over, let's end it right. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small flash drive labeled, Season 12, Cut, Scenes Emergency Room, Hidden Mics, Scrappy's Breakdown. She handed it to the court clerk. I'm donating all my unaired footage to the Hulu documentary team. No edits, no cuts, no scripts. Just truth. The courtroom buzzed again. Reporters swarmed her as she left, but she didn't stop to speak. Outside, she pulled on her sunglasses and said only one line to the cameras. This wasn't personal. It was necessary. And just like that, she vanished into the crowd. Scrappy, standing at the exit, didn't chase after her. He just stood there for a moment, then walked the other way. For the first time in years, he wasn't playing a part. He wasn't chasing a scene. He was just trying to breathe. That night, social media exploded. Clips from the trial trended worldwide. Hashtag Bambi sentenced, hashtag Tasha Kwan, hashtag Scrappy freed, and then came the announcement. Hulu had officially greenlit Broken for ratings. Part 2, The Collapse of the Storyline. Narrated by Tasha K. and featuring never-before-seen confessional footage. A trailer dropped at midnight. The final clip. Bambi, sitting alone, reading from a court-mandated statement. I let TV shape my truth. I let fear shape my choices. But I won't let shame shape my future. The comments were brutal, but the views, record-breaking. The final scene. Tasha K., sitting on a rooftop, binder closed, glass of wine in hand. She looks into the camera and says, they tried to make me the villain for exposing the edit, but baby, I am the edit. And this time, I wrote, the ending, fade to black. The truth was televised. And the cut was deep.